master and a shamanic practitioner. So I weave both of those tools together. And what I love to do is just guide women who are very high achieving women, either female entrepreneurs or corporate ladder climbing queens, as I call them, and help them demystify the dating scene. A lot of the women I work with are very busy and are really, they just desire to have that co-pilot. They're doing so well in their professional life, and it's just that missing piece. And so I help them really realize that desire in today's world with all of its apps. So we were just talking about Hinge and all of its interesting ways, let's just say, not difficult, just interesting ways to find love.
So a question I have for you, since we talked about it, you mentioned it, right? Dating apps.
Hmm.
My friends, I have friends who they pay for all the services on the dating apps. They're looking for love like everyone else, right?
Hmm.
And they're trying to understand why it is not happening for them. So from a woman's perspective, do shirtless pics work?
What a question. It's so funny. Do shirtless things work from a woman's perspective? Um, right. So if we're talking about women who are looking for a high value man long term, and because I do dating audits, right? I do, sorry, dating profile audits. So clients that want it, I just go through their Instagram and go through their, because now Instagram is like an extension of all these apps, right? So I have people like, well, I kind of filter them into my Instagram and also on the dating apps. And I say it to them too, like, okay, it depends how you want to market yourself. So for guys, that's his first picture, that's his profile picture, and you're a woman and you want a serious relationship, we are on the defense because our first question is, right, this is supposed to be your best foot forward, and that's your first picture. What are your motives, right? You might still swipe right and just be like, okay, let's see how it goes. But I'm sure the women on the podcast, and the audience even can relate and say 9 times out of the 10, that guy that they've swiped right on and they had the shirt off is going to start being, the chat's going to go physical fast because that's what's important to him. So, on the other side for ladies, I'm like, put that skin away because the lucky man will find out that you've got a great body. He doesn't need to know that now. He can see your silhouette, like he can see your shape to see if you're his preference and all that's fine. Like, let's not hide the fact that we want to have that interaction eventually and be intimate with someone, but put that skin away. If he deserves it, he will see it. So don't worry. He has a big imagination, like all of you men do. So you don't have to show it all. So I would just say, for men who are doing that, if your shirt is off, it's got to be within a context which your shirt needs to be off. Not just like I'm at the gym. It's like, okay, so if there's a cool picture showing like what you like to do, or you're being a manly man, we like that. We like to see the masculine. So if you're being a manly man and you're chopping wood, that makes sense. But if you're just toilet selfie and your shirt's off, it's like, what's happening here? Am I being solicited? Like, what's happening?
I know when I used to be on dating apps, this was maybe eons ago, probably when it first started, right? And became mainstream. I had three pictures. And one picture was actually the selfie, but I was fully clothed. And another one was me at an event where I was in a dress shirt, the dress vest, and it was like a full body image.
Mhm.
And another one was me just doing something like around the house. And I found a little bit of success with that, but I also found that my bio was important as well with what I was actually saying.
Yeah.
And I know there are many times where men will put, or at least the feedback that I get from the women is that men will put that they're looking for something long term when they're really not,
Yeah.
right? But they don't realize that everything they're saying before that sentence and after that sentence impacts that actual sentence. So, what kind of tips can you give to the
Yeah.
men from the woman's perspective when it comes to creating their online persona? Because
Mhm.
I didn't realize this was a thing, but Instagram, as you mentioned, is an extension of it. So is TikTok, so is Facebook, so is YouTube. So, what tips can you give from the to the men from the female's perspective?
Oh, I love these questions. I can't wait to show my audience this show. They're going to be like, oh, yes, Rachel, tell them. So, right. First of all, let's talk about the bio, right? Women use twice as many words as men. So I know you guys are great at synthesizing things, but really go into a little bit of detail in the bio. Give us a little bit of a feel of who you are. The I'm looking for a long-term girlfriend thing and you're not. Men, like, we're so intuitive as women. We will pick that up so fast. Like, we don't even have to be into the like the tarot and the crystal. We are just naturally very intuitive, so we can smell a rat from far away. And I just want like the men listening here to know, and like if your friends, for example, listen to your show as well, you don't have to promise a long-term relationship in order for a woman to go on a date with you. Like there will be women on the app that just want that physical relationship as well. Like they're on board because they're in that particular part of their journey. So, you know, you don't have to, treat some women as if they're naive. Oh, I've got to play the game that, oh, maybe there's potential and they'll sleep with me. Because there are plenty of women that are like, well, this is the phase of my life I'm in. And it doesn't necessarily have to be, the low value kind of woman. It's women who are so busy, maybe they're on their third business and they just want the companionship and that physical interaction, but in a respectful dynamic where you're both in agreement that, okay, we're going to be intimate with each other. Right now, we don't have the capacity emotionally, financially, whatever it is, to accommodate a relationship on that level, but we can be physical because we both have human needs. Trust me, there are so many women, particularly women who are doing very, very well, that would be happy to have that. But it's the second that we smell a rat and it's, oh, I'm just looking for the one. And it's like, you've lost. We actually like the honesty. You can just tell us. It's fine, you know?
Do How successful are the women with the online dating piece that you help with
Mhm.
in regards to finding what they want that's more than just the physical or what we would call the hookup culture?
Yeah, so interesting you're asking this because so what I help with that is because there's so many men online on the apps. Everyone is looking for love. I feel like even more so obviously post-COVID. Um, and what I personally do is in my practice and the package I offer is really helping to ramp up the quality so that women are not talking to 11 guys at once, but you are only talking to the high quality men. So it's a tough one because they come to me obviously because they can't find the quality that they're looking for. There does seem, according to what they're saying, that there are a lot of men who have so many options, and men at the moment are, and women are bombarded, but particularly men are bombarded with these Instagram looking models. And so the vision of what beauty is sometimes is a little bit skewed. I'm hearing, there's this expectation that we all look like these supermodels who, I mean, they don't even look like themselves, right? They have filters on filters and, maybe they're on their ninth surgery, which in itself is not bad, but at the same time, it's not a one size fits all for all women. So that's the feedback I'm getting. Like men seem to just not value someone who, comes from a good family, like tick, tick, tick box, but it's like, oh, but she doesn't look like the supermodel, or she doesn't look like this person or that celebrity. Because on Facebook, like if you go on Reels, do you see how many beautiful women now? It's just like boom, one after the other. And then if you feed yourself that every day, your mind says, okay, this is the standard then. So why would I settle for anything else if somewhere in Bermuda, there's my curly haired goddess that exists? So, all right, well, she must be here in the world somewhere.
I remember in when I was in university, I took a course called it was psychology, and the professor would show us images of how beauty changed over the years.
Ooh.
And some people don't realize that a curvier woman was the beauty standard in some place. Now, I don't mean like a necessarily obese or an overweight woman. I just mean a woman that has some curve to her. And then when you fast forward to let's say the 90s where you had the slimmer women, the runway models, it started to put into a lot of men's minds that this is what the beauty was. So you had a number of women who were very thin, some cases unhealthy wise, but some cases healthy. And it took me back to my 20s. I couldn't have a successful date with a woman that was successful by my definition to save my life. It was whoever wanted me, whoever wanted terrain got terrain at that point in time. But in my 30s, once I began to understand what women look for in a partner, I found more success. But I was able to find that success because I started asking the opposite sex questions. And I don't think that happens enough. Do you see that in your field of business where you have them asking the right questions, but more importantly, they're asking questions of the opposite sex to understand what they want?
First of all, I think you have to come on my show ASAP for because I'm just like, this is the plan is side note, this the plan, well, it could be, but I'm just the more I'm talking to men like yourself, I'm like, there are such awakened men on the planet. Like we just need a whole season of you. So we have to chat, first of all. Second of all, again, this is what I do insist that women do, learn a lot more about male psychology, both from reading and also speak to men. So I'll give you an example of a really, I find it funny, but I'm sure the girl involved doesn't find it funny. So a really good friend of mine, I was not well, recovered. My friend was like, let's go out. And we were like ex-colleagues when we used to work in the corporate world together. And he was telling me, he's speaking to this girl or a woman, I should say, let's say woman, he should not girl, but speaking to her, and he didn't really seem that excited, right? And I've seen him more excited about other women. And I think she'd called and he watched the call and let it go. Now, this for me, he is like top tier black man. Like anyone who gets him, I'm like, you smashed it, like, because he is platinum level. And if anybody's interested in him, please let me know. You know where to contact me. But yeah, so he watched it ring, and I was like, no, pick up the phone. And he was like, no, I'm at dinner. And I was like, okay. And then he messaged her saying like, oh, I'm gonna call you later. Now that would have been fine, but his friend then called and was in the neighborhood area. We were in like quite a hipster area of London. And he said, oh, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just out with a friend right now. And our dinner was coming to a close anyway, and I definitely was not going to go like nightclub. I was going to bed. I had plans. I had my tea waiting for me, my biscuits. So his friend was like, no, just come out. Like, and so he was like, oh yeah, I think I'm just going to go out. And I said, why did you tell the girl you were going to call her later? Or woman, so I keep going goodbye, girl. Why'd you tell her you were going to call her later when you know you're not, and you know you're at dinner? Why don't you just say it? And I said, why don't you tell her you're with a friend as well? Like she doesn't even know who you're at dinner with. And now because the time is gone, it's now tomorrow because like 1 a.m. And she's thinking, oh, does he even like me? Does he? And my point with all of this is like, so his whole objective with her was actually, I do want something long term, but he wasn't quite sure about her. And that is very innocent in itself. But because imagine that her on the other side, all she's getting is a broken promise and then silence. And most likely he didn't wake up until the afternoon. So now she's like, okay, who did he just find someone? Is he interested in someone else? So I always tell women, like, make sure you have male friends because you won't spiral naturally. It's natural to sometimes react this way because some things don't make sense, and if you don't have all the pieces, you make your own conclusions. But when you speak to men and you realize actually a lot of men are not malicious, like they're not doing things to piss us off on purpose. It's just, and like for this example, I said, why? And he was just like, yeah, I'm not 100% sure where this is going, but I do like her. But also, couldn't believe this. I just don't feel like she needs to know every single detail of what I'm doing when I'm doing it, blah, 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 blah. And he said, not in a bad way, but we're only seeing each other. I felt that was really interesting because, I feel like lots of high value men really value their freedom. And so, speaking to men on this type of topic, for example, you start to realize, oh, actually, women and men see freedom differently. Women and men see, revealing lots of details completely differently. Whereas a woman, I'm sure you know her blood type by the second day and, all of these things. But instead of getting mad and being like, oh, all men are X, Y, Z, you just learn. It's like learning a language. You don't ask why Spanish is Spanish. You just say, oh, okay, that's how it is. I respect that. I want to learn the language. Let me just follow the rules then.
What would be your definition of, since you use the word and with women as well, what would be your definition of a high value man and a high value woman?
Yeah, someone else asked me this the other day. I would say in both cases, someone who has done the work, and I know it sounds very generic and everyone is saying those buzzwords at the moment, but what that really means is really owning your shadow. Everyone has a shadow side. Everyone has been through something to some degree. We've all got some degree of parental wound, mother or father, on some spectrum, and it does affect how we show up in love. And so high value men and women are people who are aware of these wounds. They may not have fully integrated this shadow part of them into themselves, but they're very aware of it. They're successful in a lot of other parts of their life, and they want to move into that kind of success with love, but they're here saying, okay, actually, I don't know it all, teach me. That's someone who's so high value because it shows their humility, but it also reflects their intelligence as well. So I would say that rather than go into the details of someone who, doesn't sleep with someone. And I don't feel like that is not what makes someone high value or not. It's the self-respect for your journey, your shadow, your past, and holding yourself to a really high standard and a high regard, and then going out into the world and magnetizing the same back.
I like the ending of that because I totally agree with how you mentioned that the maximizing of certain areas of their life. And one of the reasons why I push back on, especially the men, but the women as well, is that I want each and every person to understand that the majority of people are not going to be high value by its definition,
Hmm.
right? So the reason why I say that is that when I start with that and then I follow up with the question, are you okay with not being high value? Right?
Mm.
Or are you okay accepting someone in your life who's not high value, like how you're not high value? Then people will say, no, I'm not. And then the argument would be that, well, if you're not something, why are you willing to not accept it when someone else is, for all intents and purposes, what you are, right?
Mm.
So, and this is where I guess men have some challenges because they'll say that Trey, I want a high value woman. Then ask the question, okay, what is that to you? Because apparently it's different to everyone, right? And let's say that she has to be under the age of 25, no kids, and her body count is less than five. I was like, okay, perfect. That's perfectly fine, right? Your preference is going to become your prison, but let's run with that at this point, right? So, what do you have to offer this born again Christian woman, right?
Again.
Because she's going to come with what she is. So, are you working at are you sweeping floors?
Mhm.
Are you a garbage man? Are you these things that earn a respectable income, but they're not top tier?
Mm.
If the answer is no, then either you need to move up the ranks or you have to come down in what you want in the ranks. And I find that to be difficult for a lot of men and maybe women to grasp that maybe what they want isn't as realistic as they may
Mm.
think. Have you had those conversations with the women that you deal with?
So I specifically work with women who are that level, like they are smashing it, like they're like five, six, seven figures. But I have seen, I don't know if you watch the Kendra G show. See, I used to watch it religiously, but then my sleep mate, because it comes on like 2 a.m. for us, I'm like, I can't keep this up. But I've seen on there a lot exactly what you're talking about. And anytime Kendra confronts them, like particularly the women, um, sometimes men as well. Like I know there are some men that come on that are like, I want a woman that has no kids, and he's got seven kids, and Kendra's like, what? Like, why are you gonna be, something that she's gonna go for? And same with women, there's this obsession with this six-figure thing, and I think I get it if you're there. I get it if you're there. That makes sense because there's a lifestyle you're already accommodated to. But if you're not there and there's no pathway to getting there, it's not like you've got a business and you know you're going to fast track yourself there or eventually get there, then it doesn't make any sense to me that where someone would want that. But I know that there are women that have a certain dynamic, I guess, that they have in their head where they want to be kept women. Um, which is fine. But it's just interesting. I think for those kind of women, it's a different ball game. And the question is, what else are you bringing? Not just that money is everything, but what other kind of value do you bring in? Does it measure up to what you're looking for as well? Is it going to be an attraction? Is it a match?
What are some of the things that your clients hold as valuable in a man?
Right. So they are, for the most part, I think copy paste want the same kind of man. So someone who is on their level or above. And that's not from a superficial standpoint. Again, lifestyle is important. They all have very specific lifestyles just due to the nature of how good their businesses are going. So they will have an entire team. Perhaps they do have to fly out of the country to do face-to-face seminars, etc. So they would want someone who if they had a trip, for example,